There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. That power that can make a way out of no way.
Today, in the world, there's so much suffering because of that one of prayer.
My dear Lord, we come to you collectively in prayer today for your dear son, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who was hospitalized with COVID 19. Dear Lord, we know that you know what's best for your servants, and we humbly beg that if it is your will to let him stay with us, dear Lord, then please, we are begging and asking for his quick recovery. We thank you, dear Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Welcome, everybody, to the Prayer Revolution. My name is Doyal. I'm happy to be here with you. We have a very, very, very wonderful, beautiful, special guest with us today. Her name is Vraja Lila. And she actually, you sent me a bio yesterday about yourself so I can learn a little about yourself. And I was just blown away about how you've lived your life and the things that you've done. It was incredible. I was just astounded. She began practicing bhakti in 1979, where she met Krishna devotees in the bhakti path here in New York City. I'm in Brooklyn right now. She's tuning in from a farm community where she lives in Pennsylvania, but is right here in New York City back in 1979. And within a year after her formal vows of commitment to the spiritual path, she was requested by her spiritual teacher, who is Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who we've referenced and quoted here often on the show, to go to West Africa to pioneer the spreading of spiritual values and Krishna consciousness there in Nigeria. And she lived in West Africa for almost 10 years, traveling and assisting and helping various spiritual community centers there. And she helped her spiritual teacher develop what's known as the Institute of Applied Spiritual Technology. And then in 1995, she and her husband, Ekavira Prabhu, they were requested to take on leadership roles in the farm community Gitanagari, which is where they are now. And it was there that her spiritual master left her body. She was a close associate and assistant of her spiritual master during his last days. And so many of us have heard stories from Ranat Swami, from others about his beloved guide brother Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who's his disappearance date was just recently. And so, I mean, the anniversary of his passing from this world. And so many friends I've seen all over social media and Facebook have been posting quotes and stories and videos of him. And so she's living there currently now. She's a GBC devotee care. She's on the GBC devotee care community. And her and her husband serve on the Grihastha Vision team, which is a marriage counseling leadership team for the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. And last but not least, you're also employed by USAID to teach mediation and conflict resolution internationally. And you traveled worldwide teaching workshops on spiritual care, relationship building, graduated from Berkeley University, and you're a certified trainer in conflict resolution, mediation, and nonviolent communication. So I was blown away at all the things that you've done with your life, and it's so incredible. And we are overjoyed and grateful to have you here. It's just you and me this morning. Vera had a family outing that came up. You know, he's got a little boy now, baby boy.
Yeah.
You know that you have children. Do you and your
Yeah.
did you know him?
Yes. Last time I was at Bhakti Center.
Yeah. And so he's a little. So they had a family outing plan this morning, so he's not able to make it. So I get you all to myself,
I
and
get you.
and we got you all to ourselves. And so we are really, really, really grateful that you're here. And normally, as I mentioned, we say a prayer. We have a prayer that we start each morning, and then we discuss that prayer. And so I'd mentioned to you, we talked, if you would like to lead us in a prayer, we would love to hear from you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really so grateful to be with all of you. I see some familiar faces and some that I'm sure I will get to know as we go on. It's just wonderful that we can connect in this way. So, technology, so amazing. So we'll start with a prayer. And I believe you request everyone to close their eyes if they would like to. If not, just let's be together. Um, what I'd like us to do is just enter our minds, bring our minds into that sacred space within our hearts. And if we can sit there, sit the mind there at this very sacred place in the heart. Sit there for a second. Rest our minds in this place. Let us just connect. So, dear Father, Mother God, we thank you so much. We're so very grateful for your continued love and guidance. We thank you, dear Lord, for your quiet whispers that changes our lives when we listen. During this tumultuous time, my Lord, we're so much in a time of turmoil in the world, which we know is always going on at different times. However, my dear Lord, we're praying that somehow or other we can please have the strength and the courage to see people, places, and events through your divine presence. Please guide us and change us through your eyes. Please connect our hearts to your divine truths. Please focus on divine values and ethical attitudes that will help us to flourish spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Please purify our hearts and let us take steps that will guide us towards your plan for our lives. Please, dear Lord, help us with our battles over fear and anxiety. We're praying for courage to overcome our fears. We're praying for courage to be persons, friends, and loved ones that you want us to be. We thank you, dear Lord, for giving us the opportunity each day to develop a loving relationship with you. And we thank you for all the people that you sent in our lives from the time we were babies until now that are helping us in this growing process to develop this relationship and to express the love that you give to us, to others. We make all these requests knowing, dear Lord, that you understand and you know what's in our hearts. We're simply sitting there today. We've brought our minds to you. We're resting our minds at your lotus feet and hearts. And we ask of all of these requests in your holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol. So when you're ready, please come back to us. Let's all bring our minds back to this space, this beautiful space that we're in right now with Dal Gauranga Prabhu, Doyal, who has so kindly requested me. I'm so really grateful to him for extending this kind invitation. Doyal Prabhu, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful prayer. I feel like a balm on my soul. And it was very, very comforting, very, very beautiful. So many thoughts, reflections, things came up that I'd love to hear more from you on. But before we dive into all of that, I I'd like to ask the first most important question is, how are you doing? How are you this morning?
Um, yeah, thank you for asking. Well, let me first go to my feelings. I am feeling excited and happy,
Mm.
and I'm feeling thankful to everyone that, so early in the morning, I see so many, like I said, so many dear friends that you take the time to come and be with us together. I am feeling excited about connection.
Mm.
And yeah, what's going on for me is how to be connected with people in all areas of life.
Mm.
What is it? What is my purpose? My purpose is to bring love and to awaken hearts
Mm.
to the ultimate goal of all of our lives, the ultimate purpose, which is really to connect with God. That's our real purpose. And how we do that differs. So I do that through teaching conflict, through mediation, through marriage, through so many different things. However, my purpose is to love God and to love God's representatives and those persons that are here on the planet.
Mm.
So yeah, that's where I am today. How do I send that love?
Mm. That's beautiful. You're sending it right now. We feel it. It's so beautiful. You've been doing this work of mediation and conflict resolution. I mean, it feels like every person in the country needs to talk to you right now, and learn a little something from you. Um, what was it that initially, was that something that throughout your entire life that you always felt inspired to do? Was there something that ignited that desire and passion in you, where you saw something, you experienced something that said, this is the kind of work I want to get into?
Yeah, as you said, I had been living in Africa for about almost 10 years. And we were there as devotees, just kind of bringing the message of love of God to as many people as we could.
Yeah.
And after coming back to America, my teacher, my mentor, my guru, he wanted to develop a community in Washington, D.C. And that community, as you shared, was named the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, which means we apply all the things that we learn, right? And so in Nigeria, the first country I had been to as a young devotee in 1980, they were transitioning in government. Their government was transitioning they were transitioning to a democracy. And so they were having a lot of challenges in that transition. And so a friend of mine who was working there in Nigeria and with the government asked, would you like to go and help with this, with the challenges that this country is facing right now in this transition? And I thought, yeah, that sounds wonderful. That sounds like something that I would like to do, because I knew that I could teach mediation and bring some technology about God. Somehow I could put that in it, some kind of way. I would know how to bridge, the conflicts that they were having, because I understand, when we connect with people's hearts, that whatever tool that we use, if we can connect with people's hearts, that tool will influence their life. And so I accepted that request, and myself and another friend, we accepted the job from the US government, and we went to help in that country. That's how actually I started doing mediation.
Wow, that's amazing. International. You didn't start small.
Well, the other thing is that I had, God had arranged that I would, my whole life of practicing bhakti, I was always with other people. And when you live with other people, there are always conflicts, right? I think only when you can live by yourself, then there's some conflict, because you have conflict with yourself.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, so in one sense, I kind of had been utilizing those tools, throughout my devotional life and still continue to do that, whether it's with myself, my own personal conflicts, or
Yeah.
whether it's with just one other person, or whether it's with many people. So
Yeah.
it's just an extension.
Yeah. You have a question. It's like, well, where does conflict come from? How does conflict arise? Well, if you have one person and put them in the presence of another person, you get conflict.
Yeah, this is a fact. Or if we have a mind that wants to do something different than our intelligence, then we
Yeah.
have a,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and we
So,
usually do.
yeah, you mentioned something so beautiful about applied spiritual technology and applying spiritual values to current life. And then you also mentioned in conflict resolution, what inspired you is that if you can connect to people's heart, then the tools you use are really open stuff. So share with me a little bit more what you mean by that, like connecting to a person's heart first. And what do you mean by that? And what does that look like? And how do you go about doing that?
In the science of bhakti, we learn that God actually lives in the heart,
Mm,
and so if when we're able to move through all the different layers that we have and go to a person's heart where God is actually residing, then we're connecting with the essence of the person.
yeah.
And so for me, that's kind of yeah, my connection in terms of relationships is always how can I connect with what's going on for that person's essence? Because I
Mm,
know at the core of a person's essence is beauty. At the core of a person's essence is divine truths. At the core of a person's essence is the desire to connect, because that's who we are. And so yeah, it's moving through the externals that we all have, all of us, and going to that place where,
mm,
like going to, you ever go to an ocean and you see just the water is just so beautiful with clear and it's green or it's blue or whatever, and you just kind of look at it and you think, wow, there's so much beauty there. And then you get in it and the water is just warm and wonderful. So that's what it's like to connect with someone's heart,
mm,
to go to that deep place,
mm. Yeah.
It's not so easy sometimes because, we have a lot of defenses and we cover it with a lot of different layers of different things from, whatever, from the world, from
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that's what's needed today more than anything, is connecting with on that deeper level. But it seems like it's so hard, especially now with social distancing. Everybody's in a different place. We're not able to have face to face. We're not able to have hugs. There's not as many hugs going on in the world right now. And also, as you mentioned in your prayer, so much turmoil going on currently right now in our country. And so, what are some ways that you might recommend, or that you practice, or that for people today, that how can we start to connect, especially if it sometimes feels like a one-way street, like, you're trying to connect and offer to somebody else's heart, but they don't seem to want to connect to your heart. And so do you just, how does it have to be a two-way street, or can it just be a one-way street? And if so, how do we do it in today's world? Help us apply this spiritual technology.
Yeah, it's a little more challenging. However, God is so magnanimous that we can't even begin to understand how His creation works. Who would have known that we would be able to start connecting through social media in the way that we're connecting?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
God never leaves us without a way to connect with our humanity. Never,
Hmm.
ever, ever, ever. And so it's just that we, as yeah, as with layers of different ways that we may think, we may not always use our intelligence to find ways to connect.
Hmm.
However, there is always a way to connect. So one of the first things I always think about is the universality in humanity. And so now we are able to utilize social media, which I struggled with for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to use social media. I was like, no, it just seemed like no, why? I want to talk to the person, see the person. However, I have this dear friend that was so encouraging with me, and just encouraged me very, very sweetly to please start using social media. And now I find it as one of the greatest gifts that's given to us from the Lord at this time, and it can connect us for sure. One technology is to use technology.
It's so amazing as you think of it, because this technology's always been there. You know what I mean? Like now we got Zoom, and we've got social media, etc., and we're doing all these podcasts and all. This particular podcast started right after quarantine hit, because people were wanting to connect and hear voices from the Bhakti Center, and hear voices sharing about not just what's going on in the world, but also just wanting to connect and hear voices. And so we started it then, but and now we have so many Zoom meetings, and we're connecting, like even in the Bhakti Center, we're doing programming, and there's people that are able to join in from all over the world that weren't able to before. And
Yes,
it's like we didn't need to wait for a pandemic to do that. You know what I mean? It's like
exactly.
you don't. Sometimes it takes something so extreme and dramatic to catapult us into recognizing the tools that are already there and available to us. But so I was just reflecting how these tools were already there for us. We just weren't utilizing them, and how many ways of connection and positive things are there that I'm taking for granted or not taking advantage of.
Yeah, that's so true. Because that's actually what happened to me. That when I surrendered to technology, I'd come back from India, and
Mm.
I had a bit of an accident there, and I couldn't walk. I actually was in the hospital in India for almost 2 months
Wow.
in the hospital.
Hospitals in India. It's another
Uh,
whole other journey. It's a whole other level of faith.
Another level. Fortunately for me, I was in a hospital where I could the Bhaktivedanta hospital, which
Oh, it's
you can hear
yes.
spiritual things all throughout the day, spiritual messages. So I got back to America somehow, and I couldn't walk. I
Mm.
actually couldn't go downstairs of my house. It was just a time of deep reflection and deep prayer. What will I do to serve God? That's my purpose in life. What will I do? And then there's this whisper from this person, although she was like a loud whisper: I want you to get on social media. And at that time, like I said, I was just not connected to social media at all. This was like a couple years before all of this started. So we
Mm.
started doing some courses online, and so like that, we were prepared. I see one of the persons shaking their heads because they were taking some of the classes during that time, and it all came about because of a crisis. So, like you said, Doyle Prabhu, crisis can really connect us with the
Mm.
things that we may not never think about. It requires sometimes a crisis for
Yeah,
us to face. Yeah.
it's beautiful. We have a little chat board going on here where people are showing love and spreading so much appreciation for what you're saying. And one of our Balori, one of our listeners, mentioned that she'd love to hear a response to the question I'd asked about connecting to one's heart, even if it's one way. So, does there need to be an opening? Does there need to be a reciprocation to connect to someone's heart, or even if someone's closed off, do we still? How does that work? If it's if two people are having conflict and they want to connect, okay, great. But if there's a wall on one side and someone's trying to connect, how does is that possible? How does that happen? How do you approach the situations where someone just seems you're trying to connect with the heart, but it seems a little closed off?
Yeah, you know, compassion is whether someone's heart is closed off or not. How do we, this is a practical tool that can take lifetimes
Mm.
to really enter into, to have compassion for another person irregardless of whatever space that person may be in, is the greatest way that we can show our humanity.
Mm.
You know, to have empathy and compassion, because if a person is closed off, that means they're in pain. And we may not understand their pain. We may not identify with their pain. However, if we have that simple tool in the back of our understanding, when we meet someone that's reluctant or resistant to connect, this person has some pain. And okay, am I willing to step into that arena to find out about their pain? Then that's an individual, you know, someone may individually need to make that decision. It's an individual decision. However, to once again, to go back to this first understanding of our humanity, we do need to understand some tools to connect with people that are shut off. Because, you know, to be honest, I travel the world and most people are shut off in one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, in one way or another. I mean, you know, now we're seeing a turmoil of people kind of being shut off because of a pain that's, you know, that's coming forward, which is a really good thing. You know, it's nice that people can express their pain. And then it's also nice that we can decide, do we want to enter into that pain? Because it can be a little bit challenging for sure. And we need to have tools to do that. I wouldn't recommend that someone just think, oh, this person doesn't want to open their hearts and I'm just going to go in anyway and open their hearts. No, I don't, it doesn't work. It's not so simple like that.
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, there are definitely saintly personalities on our planet that can do that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we need to really have some strategies, spiritual strategies, emotional strategies, how to connect with people.
Yeah, it's very beautiful what you shared. It's almost kind of like, if you're going to do that, it's kind of like, know what you're getting into and make sure you're ready for that struggle, because it's possible, but it's not easy. And you need to make sure that you're ready to, you know, are you ready to enter into that person's pain? You know?
Yes, yes. We got to really step into feeling uncomfortable. We got to step into that. Step into feeling uncomfortable because we're not sure what to expect next from the other person. And that's even in our homes, you know, with our families or whatever. Sometimes, you know, yeah, you know, I do a lot of counseling and I know sometimes somebody just wake up in a day, not, you know, not wanting to connect. And the other person might be like, what's going on? They have no clue. So yeah, we sometimes just got to step in the uncomfortableness. I don't think that's a word, but in any case, uncomfortableness of situations.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. I'm going to use that word, uncomfortableness.
Yeah, I don't think it's a word.
we got a lot of comments and chats blowing up on our chat board here. Balordi, who asked that question, said thank you, and she just mentioned it's really difficult to show compassion when you see their pain, but also want to respect their space if it's unwelcome. And so I think that also detachment, a little bit loving detachment, is like recognizing my place. And so I think that also we've discussed this a little bit on the show, that's where a lot of faith comes in, to recognize that, oh, like I may not be the surgeon this person needs in this life right now, but I believe that God is with this person, and I can at the very least pray that God be with this person. You know, as you were praying so beautifully this morning, it's like this idea that this person may need a loving connection in life, and it may not be able to come from me physically with them, but maybe I can pray that the right person in the right way, you know, please God, send someone in our life that they can listen to and hear from and connect with. And I think that's what you mentioned at the very beginning that was so beautiful, is that God never leaves us without a way for us to connect to our humanity. And so I think that, like, God is always with people, but like it's like, okay, so they may need space from us physically, but we can still, you know, pray that somehow some connection comes in. God in the right way at the right time will enter into that person's life.
Yes, and I believe what's important is to acknowledge within ourselves first the person's pain, acknowledge it with compassion, and acknowledge it with empathy. I believe that the work that we need to do on the planet is individual. Each one of us need to, go within ourselves and see, how am I able to really connect with what is going on with this other person? Oftentimes, we are so cluttered inside ourselves, and so much toxicity may be there within our own self that it's hard to connect with another person because we got to work through the layers of stuff that's within us. And so for that, we need technology. We need spiritual technology. We need applied tools.
Yes. We have a follow-up question that came in. This one came from my wife, Rasika Gopi, who's tuning in from Jersey.
Hey, Rasika. Beautiful. Such a beautiful soul. I love you.
She wrote, how can we as a spiritual community compassionately enter into the pain of racial injustice in this country for Black America?
Okay. That's a question in everybody's mind, right?
That's the big question. That's
the big question. Yeah, we kind of, there's nothing new in the world, really. However, there's a little bit of a, what I might call new paradigm that we may need to enter into. And our communities are built on a foundation of diversity. And so it's important for us to learn now. I believe this is like the next phase about our diversity. What is it that's diverse about us, So it's a time for us to go a little bit deeper and a little bit closer. And that might require education about other people and their cultures and what they've lived through and, what the pain is that they may still be holding on to. And it may be that we just become listeners for that. Some people in the community may need to just be that, just a listener. Yeah. And that tool of listening is so key to healing another person. It's so key to making connections with other people. Oftentimes, we have so much inside we want to share, and we might not take the time to stop and say, you know what, let me hear what this other person, have going on with them. And so, yes, in communities, now the new paradigm is in education of who we really are in a social sense. And that's something in Bhakti we didn't always put much, emphasis on, because we saw ourselves as and we are spiritual beings. And, you were mentioning when we talked earlier about spiritual bypass. And so this spiritual bypass is like, we're not the bodies and we're not the mind, we're not the intel, we're none of these things. And that's our focus in Bhakti. And that's divine truth. At the same time, most of the people in the world are not so fortunate as we are to have even a drop of that divine truth. And so all of us need to learn more about each other. Like sometimes you'll hear devotees say, yeah, I have an Italian background. They're like, okay, what is that? What does that mean, because I'm from New York, I understand that. I know what that is because New York is diverse and you have friends that, from every different background. However, there are a lot of places where, in America, nobody knows what's Italian food. They eat lasagna, but they don't understand the background of it. They don't know, they don't understand like the tradition behind an Italian culture. And we don't take the time to do that. And I do believe that's the new paradigm. We need to take time, to really explore each other on a deeper level. I remember going once to Mexico with my teacher, my mentor. And some of the people in the temple wanted to offer my mentor some of the home-cooked meals, some home-cooked meals. However, at the time, this is many years ago, at the time, it was not allowed to offer the Lord home cooked meals from the country. And yeah, that was quite interesting because we do have a standard of what's offered to the Lord. And so as a result of that, we had to, it was kind of, revolutionary moment where we had to educate people about how important it is for those persons. It's in their country. It is their food. You know what I mean? So how do we connect on a deeper level so they can feel valued for just something as simple as that? Something as simple as that. So yes, we do need to connect on a deeper level. I don't know, Rasika, if that's totally answer your question. It's a little bit, I remember when I first went to Africa, I met with, there was a sannyasi there, Brahmananda Prabhu. He was one of the first, he was sannyasi at the time, one of the Prabhupada's first disciples. And when I got there, there was nobody there. He was the only person there. My guru, my teacher, my mentor, he actually kind of dropped us off, told us, okay, he sent us there on a one-way ticket. However, Brahmananda was there. And I remember one of the first things Brahmananda did was to take us into the community of Africans and really let us connect, to sit with them, talk to them in their homes, and get to know them. And I found that so key. So when they would start coming to the temple, it was already a relationship that was being set up, with them. And so they felt cared for. Somebody cared enough about me to come and visit my home and see how my family lives and, what we eat. So many times we would sit and actually eat with them, and, and it was different. However, we were open to letting them know we care, letting the people there know we care.
That's beautiful. I mean, when I heard that you were in West Africa for 10 years, so many questions, just wanted to hear more. What was it like for you in those 10 years and being there, trying to share spiritual values, but also connecting with people on a personal level? Would you like to tell me more about what that experience was like, being there and living there and connecting with people?
Yeah, the same principles are there, I believe, in every place, every country. I've lived in India also for quite some time.
Yeah.
I believe in Africa, my experience, to sum it up in a short maybe short sentence, is again, connecting with people in their hearts. That's like such a key principle for me. We traveled all over West Africa, and there were no temples in many of those places. Yeah. I remember just going to, some places where we didn't even have a house to live in. Wow. We would cook outside and with fires. However, what I found is to know what our purpose is. What is our purpose? And for me, the purpose of my life has always been to connect people with something that brings joy and something that brings happiness in their life. Even before I was, a devotee of God or serving God, I always had that purpose. How can people be happy in their life? How can we experience joy? Life does not have to be miserable, and it's not supposed to be miserable. And so in Africa, that I believe is something that kept me there for as long as it did, is that I wanted to share joy, and I wanted to experience whatever joy they might have been experiencing in their life. Because, people with culture, they have some high principles, very high principles. They may not fully have a relationship with God. However, there's so many things that I learned from that culture, and continue to learn. I hope that's helpful. I mean, that's a whole, like I don't know, that's a whole day of workshops or something, speaking about being in Africa. But it's the people there were so eager. They were so eager to learn God, to go deeper with God. So eager. And so, yeah, that's the beauty that I take away from there.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I'm just gonna keep rolling with some of the questions that are coming in. One person mentioned that you've been mentioning about some various tools that we could be using. Could you guide us as to where we can learn these tools? What are these tools? Where can we learn them, and what are they?
There's so many tools. However, if we can begin with empathy, developing an empathic and empathetic heart, if we can begin with understanding more about compassion, having compassionate dialogues with each other, if we can understand a little more about listening to the other person, and perhaps, being reflective to walk in the other person's shoe, and to maybe just visualize what it might be like in the other person's shoe. These are all tools that we can apply on a daily basis. And you can, if you want to get some classes, I'm sure you can contact the Bhakti Center, Doyal Goranga, Doyal Prabhu, or you can go to our Inter-IFAST website, and we do offer classes there. So you're welcome to do that.
Rasika, would you, I think Bryn had to leave, do you want to write some of that stuff, the website, etc., in the chat board? You can put that there in the chat board. People can have that reference for her website. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and developing qualities that are reflective of our humanity. And I had written a few qualities that I thought are really important. We did this devotee care. We wrote a manual for devotee care. It's a course that's offered in Mayapur every year. And some of the principles that we came up with for caring for each other are very simple. However, they're very impactful if we practice them in our lives. And we had like 6 values, which is empathy, integrity, expertise. Expertise means not that we think we're perfect. However, we try to do things with care. Gratitude and generosity, affection and love, wisdom, and learning from the scriptures, learning from the scriptures. And so, and our principles, these are some basic principles of caring for each other, is developing a positive sense of belonging. We need that so much in this world right now. People are struggling, and people are having pain because there's no sense of who we belong to, where we belong. No, people just don't have that connection. They don't belong anywhere. And so we really need to know, where do we really belong? Where's our real home? Is this our real home, this chaotic, crazy place? This is what it is. This is what I have to look forward to for the rest of my life. So loving relationships, these are courses that we can really teach with many principles. Empathetic listening, serving each other, and again, hearing from scriptures. These are so important. And then we can break these down into smaller, values such as truthfulness, forgiveness, equality, not equality necessarily of physical concerns, equality of understanding that we are spiritual beings. And what does that mean? We may be different in so many aspects of our physicality and so many aspects of our emotions. However, we're one in spirituality. We're one in knowing who we are. So culturally, we may be many. Culturally, we're so many. We're so diverse. But spiritually, we're one. Spiritually. And so compassion, tolerance, humility, purity, faith in God's divine service, these are basic values that we can apply in our lives. And we can actually have courses on these
we got to get you teaching after this, I'm gonna reach out. We got to get you teaching a course for the Bhakti Center for all of us about these things. I'm getting some nodded heads on the chat boards and some, yeah, we got to get you doing that. I have one more question that came in from our good friend. It's a little bit of a different direction, but it's from our good friend Trisha, who lives out in Pennsylvania, and so she was like, I'd love to hear about the farm in Pennsylvania and the connection to the earth as it relates to the Bhakti path.
Thank you so much, Trisha. Yes, it's so beautiful. It's 350 acres of land. There's many cows. We have beautiful cows, and we on the farm, devotees, they make produce the milk. The cows produce milk and cheese. I guess many people are vegan today, so maybe that might not apply. However,
it's a himsa.
Yeah, it's a himsa. That's right, very protected cows. We have beautiful persons that live here on the farm, just so dedicated to wanting to be better people in life. And that's what the farm's focus is, on how we can communicate with each other, be a community that reflect the values of divinity and how to live in this world. Basically, that's the farm is dedicated to that. And it's a beautiful place. Please come and visit when everything is open. I'm sure it's going to be open soon. And please come and visit. It's an experience you'll never forget. We'll have a lot of peacocks. Just wonderful retreats that goes on during the course of the year. Of course, everything had to stop because of the COVID. So yeah, it's beautiful, and please come, please visit.
And how long have you been out there?
We lived out here since 1995. Wow. So we've been out here for many years. This is our base.
When I hear 1995, I'm like, oh, okay, that was like 8-10 years ago. It's like 25 years ago.
Yeah, this has been our base since 1995, when our mentor came to assist here to help in keeping the farm active for people in the world. And so we all, my husband and I, we came, and we've been here since then. Wow. And we travel a lot. We were traveling a lot, and we do, go and stay sometimes in. At one point, we were living in India for 6 months, and then here for 6 months. So we've done many different things. However, we always come back here because it's just so beautiful. Such a beautiful place. It's a spiritual world, actually.
It's so beautiful. I've only been to Gitanagari once, and it was just before the passing of your beloved spiritual master Bhakti Tirtha Swami in 2005. And for his last 2 public addresses that he gave, happened to be there, and so it was a very, very unique and special time, and seeing a lot of your God family, and a lot of I didn't know you at the time or know anybody really. I was much younger, and I got to experience your spiritual master's presence, the beloved, amazing unity and connection of your spiritual family, and also the beauty of Gitanagari itself. And so I've been there once. My wife spent a summer there once.
She did.
Were you at that? You were at that time there also when she was there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so funny. There's so many people who know her before. When we first got together as a couple, my spiritual teacher Radhanath Swami, I had mentioned to him that, and Radhanath Swami has so many students and so many people all over the world. And I said, it's this girl, Rasika Gopi, and I just assumed he didn't know who she was. And, you know her, she's a student of yours, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, yes, I know her. I knew her before you knew her.
Yeah, Rasika.
And so you knew her before I knew her also.
And there's some qualities I remember about Rasika that it's just so exemplary. She was always very pinpointed with determination. I always remember that about her, that she had a clear understanding of her purpose, clear understanding. And she was ready to take risks to make that purpose come alive. I remember that so clearly. And so, yeah, she's adorable. Not only is she physically beautiful, she's internally beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah. So you've got a gem.
thank you. Thank you so much. Feel beautiful, and so grateful to have you here. In our last few minutes before we sign off, I just wanted to ask anything else on your heart. If you want to share anything without me prompting a question or directing it to our audience, to our country, to anybody who might be listening later in the recording or today now, any closing words or message that you'd like to share from your heart to ours before we close, before we part.
I want to thank you again for inviting me. And I want to remind everyone that every person that's in this world is in some kind of pain, somewhere or another. And right now, we're seeing a community of people that are expressing their pain. And so, as a world community, in terms of just understanding the humanity of each and every person, it's important to acknowledge people's pain. We may not be able to do anything about it. However, just to acknowledge it and to find ways that maybe if we can't do anything about it, that we can inspire others to have empathy and compassion during this time for people with their pain.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. I was just reflecting on that, and thank you so much, Vraja Lila, for sharing this message with us, for giving us your. I said this to you yesterday when we were talking on the phone a little bit, just to prep for our time here today. That just being in your presence is so calming, and just hearing your voice. There's such a depth to your being that I can feel, even virtually through social media. I can feel it, and I feel like in addition to your words and your wisdom and your and everything that you're sharing of that's been so helpful, just your presence and your demeanor, that you mentioned something that we really have to connect. That transformation is something that takes place on an individual level, and we have to connect to ourselves first to connect with others. And I could see that's a journey that you've taken. You really have a deep interconnection, and it comes out when you speak. It comes out through your eyes and through your face. It's so beautiful, and through your compassion. And I feel that very, very much. And my hope is that we can invite you more and more to speak to our community and provide opportunities. And so please get your 3-part communication course ready, because we're going to be asking to offer it soon, or whatever it may look like. But I'm so grateful to be connected with you. My wife told me this weeks ago. She's like, "You got to get Vraja Lila on the show. You got to get her. Got to get her up there." I was like, "She's super busy. I don't know if she's gonna come." It's a fun. Our good friend Lila. I don't think she's listening later. She helped arrange it. So thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure, and I feel fortunate to be connected with you and to know you. I hope we can continue to be in touch. So thank you so much.
Thank you for developing such a beautiful community. Thank you, and thank you for all your community members that's on the call today. I am deeply grateful. I'm deeply honored that you would take your time to be here. And thank you, Doyle Prabhu, and you're keeping the pulse of what's needed in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. And now that we've officially ended our podcast, what I do is I've unmuted everybody. And if anybody wants to just share their love and appreciation for Vraja Lila, say hi, you're welcome to, or you can unmute yourself, or feel free.
Hi, thank you so much. It was beautiful.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Vraja. Hello, Mother.
Thank you.
Haribo, Rachana.
Haribo.
Haribo. Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Cat. Haribo. Shamala. I see you there.
Thank you so much.
Where
so nice to be. I'm in outside of Ithaca, New York, right now.
Haribo. Wow, you're in a beautiful place.
Yes. With you and all of you here.
Hare Krishna. Haribol, Martha. Haribol, Dayal Prabhu. Doyal, Doyal.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Karen, Monique. Monique, Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Haribol.
good to see you, Mother. Thank you.
Good to see you. Wow, I haven't seen you in a while.
I know.
Oh, are you in Vrindavan?
Yes, ma'am. I'm back. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Heartful, Mother.
Hare
Thank you for
Krishna.
being an inspiration and guiding us all, especially Black-bodied young ladies and men. So thank you so much, Mother. This was
You
highly
know,
needed.
we're all reflections of each other. We're all spiritually reflecting each other.
Oh, oh, Krishna, thank you.
We're,
Haribol.
we're grateful to be a part of a spiritual family.
Yes, ma'am. I hope to see you soon. Actually, I think I might. This summer, we're going to head down there. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, I'll let you know. All right now.
Yes,
Have a
looking
good day.
forward to that.
Okay,
Pankaj, thank you so much. Thank you. Pankaj Kapoor. Hari Hari.
Haribol.
Hari
Looking
Hari.
forward to connect more with you. I miss you and would love to have more regular association with you.
Yes, we got to do this, Rasika. Definitely.
I would love that. I'll reach out to you maybe by email or I'll connect through Lila. Yeah.
Let's do this. You're in my heart. You're in my heart.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel you. Thank you.
All right. Signing off. We'll be in touch. Haribol.
Hari Hari. Hari Bol.